Greetings, seekers after enlightenment. Yes, it's the Irish fella, and I'm here with another rant for you. More and more, I have clarity of vision. Undergoing red pill enhancement, I see my future alternatives. What others say is an empty path, one of being alone, is one I take with zero apprehension. I am unstable in body, mind, and spirit. This is not a precursor to a catastrophic event, because you must remember an organism in constant growth is always unstable. Yet it is a task I take on willingly as an individual. I need to start out with a shout out to J.D. Miles for his timely video on explaining the lack of leadership in the red pill community. I agree and enhance his remarks. Our haters have a lethal combination of ignorance and tunnel vision. They fail to see that this is an individual mass migration. I say that beyond the core tenets: no children, no marriage, no cohabitation. Where a man goes or does otherwise in his red pill journey is nothing I should be interested in. Yet he is still a brother of the red pill awakening. With their tunnel vision, our haters fail to see that this is a philosophy rather than a movement. There is no comparison, as I explained to a young seeker after truth some months ago. As my brother does now, I am willing to answer questions, not as any authority figure, but as a self-appointed guardian of red pill philosophy. Unable to handle the truth, our haters call us a movement, with all the underlying implications. A platform for political activism, prominent faces and voices spreading the word, specific talking points using keywords for proposed legislation. A philosophy is a statement of principles, neither set in stone nor nebulous. Red pill philosophy is a broad palette of options available to any man. However, just like in any philosophy, there are those who do not like what they hear and lash out in childish petulance. A philosophy that stresses self-reliance and self-improvement is subject to libel and slander on a daily basis, which does explain why they want a leader to appear, Brother Miles. They want to give him a JFK haircut. Shout out to Terrence Pop, our censored red pill brother. Movement, cult, sect, even terrorist. Those are labels applied to other groups as a means of gaining power over them. And you haters claim it's the right thing to do because you're the enlightened, tolerant ones on the right side of history. At least you keep telling yourselves that. But let me remind you, when ideology denies truth, you will invoke karma. I know you leftists have no scruples and no morals, because you've hijacked the original goals of many a well-meaning liberal cause. And governments are just as guilty. And indeed, a government that used to be benign has transmuted over time. And it's become a massive symbiote that does nothing productive while slowly killing its host. And you'll say this is extreme language. How is feminism demanding inclusion into places where they are not qualified, not extreme? How is family court not extreme with their manipulation of laws, willing cooperation of other men and angry women to exploit men through divorce and domestic violence fuckery? Yes, I went there. Governments and leftists do not want a society of independent, free thinkers. They want mindless drones who will be a disposable utility, and any complaints are ignored or responded to by force. There are many examples throughout history that show I'm telling the stone cold truth, yet you still call us extreme. Especially you leftist scumbags, your hypocrisy and deceit are on full display in your treatment of minorities like me. I've managed to step back, and now I can see how you've used substandard education and manipulating laws to create a permanent underclass. And then when someone wants reasonable reform or changes that would increase self-reliance, you hide behind those same minorities and screech racism. Now, you think I'm a liar? What do you do to anyone not being an enthusiastic cheerleader to support the leftist narrative at the current event in the Grievance Olympics? I have personally been subject to racial slurs, libel and slander, censorship by being blocked, having videos removed. Other people have been doxxed, so their families are in jeopardy. Getting them fired from their jobs. And sometimes losing their business and personal bank accounts. Now, that's pretty extreme behavior to use on someone who just has a different opinion than you. I know you haters, you're following the Alinsky rules for radicals. Freeze the target. Make the attacks personal. Shame and humiliate them in public. And their political momentum will be destroyed. As I've said before, that attitude is proof of your deep state of delusion. You haters cannot possibly stop a tsunami. And you folks on the right, don't think I've forgotten about you. There's animosity coming from the TradCon community too. They talk a good game, but then the moment they encounter any resistance, they fold like a house of cards. And operate outside their bounds of authority. You'll get just as much hatred from them. Take it from one who knows. You can see how the collective, regardless of name, has zero regard for the individual. Especially if you're a minority, you are no longer an individual, but a demographic, a statistic, a token. Your status as a victim, assigned to you by them, is the lever they use to gain power. That is your only value to them. And you may think you're doing well because you've gotten a little reward. You've got a job where you just kind of show up and hang out and still get paid. And you're on the local A-list. Well, all that will dissolve in mist the moment you step out of line and you're not enthusiastically supporting the narrative of the moment. And that attitude that you leftists display and you enthusiastic supporters of the collective, that attitude comes from fear. Fear of the truth. Now, here's an example of groupthink and ostracism that you can check for yourself. The Congressional Black Caucus refused to seat J.C. Watts, and not for some criminal activity in his past, but because he was a conservative. Any modern leftist has an ego more fragile than an eagle's egg exposed to DDT. Whatever mental capacity you have is twisted by people with a sinister agenda. To put it bluntly, political correctness is censorship. And you dumbass kids can't see you're being lied to and manipulated. That's why leftists hate old people, because we remember when they lie. And especially if you've absorbed the red pill, now you see the truth. With that new knowledge, you've made a choice. Thomas Jefferson himself said, "If a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so." We disobey by walking away. You can call this a protest, or indeed you can call what we do an act of nonviolent civil disobedience. We're not acting like the leftists do, being confrontational and mixing a speck of truth into an emotional appeal. We're not in people's faces screaming and cussing. And we're not the ones with an open platform free to shame our enemies and hopefully have them attacked by other useful idiots. We have made an incredibly tough decision. How many red pill men were just like me, trying ever harder to fulfill a role for which there's no longer admiration or even respect? You reach the point where it's easier to walk away than to subject yourself to more torture. And it does take time, but there are rewards waiting for any man who takes this path. As Lao Tzu said, new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Consider this. Your growing red pill awareness allows you to deprogram yourself from the compulsive need to be a part of any collective. And before you haters start screaming about the red pill community being a collective, recognize this, simple people. When red pill men associate with each other, it is in a value for value relationship. The path we walk has innate value, as does the information we impart to each other. Interaction with you haters has zero value added, so many of us refuse to. Between our truth and our actions, you are powerless. How can you use your typical actions of subverting language and manipulating laws to abuse a man? Especially when there is zero contact. You have no power over an awake individual, and that must drive you crazy. When you think about it, you can see this is an extreme example we're living in, but there are always those of the rising generation that rebelled against parental values. And there are those who question social values. And until the present, there's always been a relatively stable culture for the rebels to come home to. They found out the grass wasn't greener. But now, thanks to a process that started with the Enlightenment and is going to end with feminism, that stable culture has been destroyed. What we see now are reactions of an organism in a frenzy. You know, the flame is bright now, but soon it's going to be extinguished. Red pill philosophy is such a reaction. And it's not a manifestation of psychosis that you leftists display, only a recognition of bitter truth. It's a revelation that brings shock, awe, rage, and enlightenment. It is a process that happens to every man as an individual. What is your quality of life if you're like these millennials and all you know is the collective mindset? Indoctrination that the government can solve all our problems. Forced to learn a useless curriculum by rote to pass a standardized test to receive a substandard education. Someone who receives gratification not from the mutual support of a stable and healthy family, but social media. That mindset has you programmed and vulnerable, subject to subtle and these days blatant manipulation by those with their own agenda. One that has zero regard for you as an individual. Because you have to remember, tyrants fear free thinkers. Our subtle withdrawal is having an impact. How long will a corrupt system continue to run when those once used and discarded are no longer a part of it? Your life is the sum of your choices. Growing red pill wisdom frees you from estrogen-fueled emotional extortion. Using that red pill catalyst, you obtain clarity of thought. It must upset you haters intensely to see a blue pill drone suddenly wake up and make his escape. This awakening is an intensely personal experience. It is a sign that infinite potential is in your grasp, and you can now pursue your manifest destiny. I feel sorry for you people trapped in the blue pill delusion of the collective. You're so indoctrinated into that herd mentality that the very concept of an individual is alien to you. But let me tell you, I am a living example of an individual who is not only surviving, but he is thriving and prospering. And I will, as long as I'm in this mortal plane, continue to be an example of what the red pill can do for any man. So until the next time, remember, when one teaches, two learn.